Greg Tepper and Greg Powers of Dave Campbell's Texas Football here on National Signing Day 2023, breaking down the news, notes, and all that implies on recruiting's biggest day. Powers, there are 12 FBS teams across the state of Texas. We're going to dive into the group of five under the Power Five, Conference USA, American Athletic Conference, etc. Sun Belt. So when you take a look at those teams, there are seven of them, seven teams in this that we call in the sub P5. Who out of that particularly excites you? Who do you think is the big winner in recruiting in the group of five level?
To me, I have a clear-cut winner, and I kind of put an emphasis too on recruiting high school talent. That's just kind of in my nature. I look at the transfer portal guys as well, but I mean, really, everything kind of centers to me around recruiting the high school talent, and I think UTSA is probably the clear-cut winner as it relates to the sub P5 level of recruiting. They did a great job. There's guys up and down this list who could play P5 ball. You got Brandon High from Grand Oaks. He's a tremendous running back. You got Devin McQuinn from Jacksonville. It's a name that everybody out in East Texas knows. You got, Vic Shaw at Pleasant Grove, Vic Shaw is one of these guys who, if you see him, you're like, wow, that's a dude. And then you find out he's going to UTSA and you're like, wow, he's not going to like Texas or Texas A&M. Jakevian Rogers at Dangerfield, that's a GoDaddy, right? But a guy that I just keep circling back to in this class that really jumps out to me for UTSA is Jamel Hardy from Dallas Lincoln. His nickname is Jump Ball Hardy. And they're going to have to replace some talent. I look back a few classes ago. DeCorian Clark was actually a DCTF four-star guy, one of the highest rated signings that UTSA has ever had. Jamel Hardy's not rated that high. This is an extremely deep recruiting class, but you won't find a more athletic specimen than him. 6'2", 190 pounds. He's called jump ball for a reason because he can play over the top of defenses. He does it consistently. He has some areas of refinement to do, to work on as he transitions into college, but you can't coach athleticism, and Hardy has a bunch of it, and I really love him. All in all, Jeff Traylor, his staff there, they killed it on the recruiting trail. I think this is definitely the highest rated class UTSA has ever had.
So SMU, or rather UTSA, moving to the American Athletic Conference to join SMU. The Ponies, they're up there in the DFW Metroplex. They have been active in the portal. They've been active on the recruiting trail. Overall, when you take a look at what SMU was able to do in their class of 2023, how do you judge what Rhett Lashley and company were able to put together?
Well, it's a really tough choice at the top, but picking between UTSA and SMU for a winner, so to speak. But SMU, a tremendous job. They've already got 17 transfers listed coming into the program. By and large, they're, names that Texas high school football fans are going to have some familiarity with. Logan Parr is transferring in from Texas. Great offensive lineman from the San Antonio area. Jalen Davis Robinson, who signed with LSU last year out of Waxahachie, coming back home to play at SMU, a really talented cornerback. So there are names up and down that transfer list that I think are going to have, PJ Williams. This was a four-star guy in our rankings last year, transferring in from Texas A&M. We could just LJ Johnson. These are dudes who can play. But looking too also at the high school ranks, they did a pretty good job mixing in that high school talent. I really like a few guys on the list, but one of the names that really jumps out to me, I think the most out of all of them, is Alex Kilgore at Katy Pato. Played for a state championship team as a junior. They didn't make it. I don't think they made it back to the playoffs in 2022 as they went to a different district playing at a higher level. But Kilgore's game improved markedly from the state championship season, where he was one of the best players on the field. One, because he grew a lot physically. He kind of grew up, and grew into a leader, can really attack the ball, sees the football well, shoots the gap extremely quickly, and he's a secure tackler. But up and down that list, they've got a bunch of names on there. Jackson Lavender is a guy from Lovejoy who is extremely quick. And they've got a couple of defensive linemen and Damian Wimberly and Kevin Allen from Everman that I think a lot of people overlooked in this recruiting class, and they're going to regret it. Both of these guys can really play and came on like gangbusters throughout the course of the 2022 season, which was their senior year, the most important year for development as you transition into college.
So then let's go from DFW to Houston and talk about the Rice Owls. We've talked at length with Coach Mike Bloomgren and that staff about some of the challenges that come along with recruiting to Rice. It's a very rigorous academic institution. When you look at what the Owls were able to put together in the class of 2023, they've had some high impact transfers in as well. What do you make of what Mike Bloomgren and Rice were able to do?
Well, I mean, you're going to look at JT Daniels, right? He was like one of the top rated quarterbacks in the country. He's coming in from West Virginia. I think that he's a guy who can immediately make a big impact. And a lot of people noticed that transfer nationally. Like that was a huge move for Rice to get one of the top quarterbacks in the country. You hit the nail on the head with how difficult it is to recruit high school talent to Rice. And honestly, I feel like they do a pretty good job. Looking at the past 3 classes, this class included, I think Rice does a consistently good job of finding guys who are not only good football players, but great students as well, which is something that they have to take under consideration when they extend an offer. And there are some guys on this list that jump out to me, but, you know, one of the top guys to me is easily Ty Morris from Decaney. 6'1", 6'2", 195 pounder. He's playing safety, and he absolutely flies to the football. He may bulk up into a player that spends most of his time in the box after he's at Rice for a year or two in the strength and conditioning program, but you're not going to find guys with his range easily. And I think this was a huge pickup for Rice, and they do it. Like, they hang their hat on finding some great players in the Houston area, keeping them at home, but they have to go outside of that and find some guys as well. And they have some guys on this list that I feel like are pretty good players. And wide receiver Drayden Dickman from Georgetown is one of those guys as well. A very athletic wide receiver guy, a great route runner who understands how to get open. He's one of these guys who I feel like goes into Rice, and you have to convince him to stay there because he's so good, right? That's what I think is a challenge for a team like Rice, because these are good students, they're good football players, and then other opportunities, bigger opportunities sometimes pop up for them. They have to like work the transfer portal in reverse, keep talent on their roster.
So then let's talk a little bit. Let's go way out west to El Paso to talk about UTEP and Dana Dimel's class of 2023. Other challenges there, different challenges, specifically geographic challenges out there in El Paso. But the Miners hauling in what I think is a pretty decent class of 2023. On the recruiting trail, how would you assess what the Miners were able to do?
You know, I think this is a better class, especially like approaching it from the high school angle. They did a pretty good job. They've got names on the list this year that I know. And I think that that's a great step in the right direction. It's a lot more fun for me to kind of cover it. You know, Seth Mouser from Bastrop is a quarterback who I really like. I think he's our number 12 rated quarterback in the state of Texas in this class. And, you know, they have Tyrone McDuffie who picked up some other offers, staying at home in El Paso. He played at Parkland. So a name that Miners fans should really be excited about. But the guy that jumps out to me, they got him late, you know, just a couple days ago, Ezel Jolly from Fort Bend Ridgepoint. Tremendous running back, has the speed that you're looking for, the size that you're looking for. I think that he could be a true star in UTEP's offense, and a guy that when we look back at this class, if things go how I think they can for Jolly, he's a guy that we really look at and think, wow, the Miners hit a home run on this. It's a good thing that they saved back a scholarship for a guy like this, because I say that they save back a scholarship because they really aggressively recruit the JUCO ranks. I would say more so than any other team in the country, UTEP's success hangs on the success of those JUCO players who are entering the program. And they do a pretty good job of finding those players as well. They need these guys to come in and be able to play from day one. And that's how they're balancing out their roster, not necessarily always through the transfer portal. it's the JUCO transfer portal that they're tapping into. Bill Snyder had a lot of success with that at Kansas State, and it's something that Dana Dimel does well at UTEP in addition.
So there were two FBS coaching changes in the state of Texas, one of them happening in San Marcos with G.J. Kinney taking over there at Texas State. And I'm just, obviously not a lot of time on his side to put together a class 2023. How do you, I mean, it's obviously got to be graded on a curve a little bit, but what do you make of Texas State's 2023 recruiting class with the new regime kind of coming in?
Well, I mean, I think that they have done a tremendous job from this standpoint. They're hanging their hat on the catchphrase "Take Back Texas," and they are proving that they will aggressively recruit Texas, whether it's high school players or transfers who are from Texas that want to come back to Texas. They are making that their mission statement, and they're backing it up. And they're starting to see results, I feel like, from that. As a matter of fact, it's National Signing Day last night that they announced a commitment from Justin DeLeon, former Baylor commitment, who is one of the top-rated offensive guard prospects in the state. They got Bammy Badusi from Mansfield Timberview, who's a big-time offensive lineman. They did a really good job in Mesquite, where G.J. Kinney happens to be, his birthplace is Mesquite, Texas. They have recruited aggressively into the Mesquite schools, especially Mesquite Horn, where they were able to get Chris Dawn and a Mariana Atwood, guys who had other offers. So I'm starting to see like a shift in the perception as it relates to Texas State from the recruits that I'm talking to out in the field and the Texas high school football coaches who help mentor and guide a lot of these guys throughout the process. And I think that's really important because, that you want to recruit Texas if you're Texas State. If you want to be good at Texas State, I think that that's really important. I think it's something that the regime that left overlooked. So I think that is something that G.J. Kinney and his staff at Texas State are getting right.
So that was a coaching change. The other one happened in Denton at North Texas with Eric Morris taking over for Seth Luttrell, and even later than that. And so now there's, my read on the situation, I'm interested to see if you have it, is that all things considered, I think they closed pretty well. Is that kind of where you land on this as well?
Yeah, I think so. I was a little bit worried about it because they were our last rated team as we did in the early signing period. We put together our class rankings. Well, North Texas was with the bottom of all of the, FBS level schools in Texas. Well, they just didn't sign anyone, right? They signed Landon Sides from Denton Geyer. So who's a great player. I really like Landon Sides. I think he's one of the, he's a DCTF 3-star guy, but they didn't have the depth there to really rate them very high. Coming down the recruiting home stretch here, they've done a tremendous job getting guys like Javen Anderson from North Shore, who is a tremendous, tremendous talent, has been an integral part of what they've done, late down the stretch, I guess. They got Keith Smith from South Oak Cliff. He was a guy who had decommitted at one point and decided to, rejoin the North Texas efforts in Denton. Isaac Son, offensive lineman from Aledo. We were robbed of the chance to see him in the state championship game because he was injured. But Isaac Son is a really talented guy. Colin Lewis from Gladewater. I know all these are DCTF 3-star guys who had other offers on the table and are really talented players. So I think you hit the nail right on the head. They did a tremendous job closing, getting talent onto the roster. And it's a roster that has some talent already, so they didn't have to go crazy. But mixing in, 12 to 15 high school recruits in with what they've been able to do in the transfer portal. They've got 8 guys there. They've got some big guys coming in on the offensive front, and Larry Moore and Paula Vaipulu, who I really like a lot. So I think that they've done a good job of mixing and matching there at North Texas. They give them something to work with on the field in 2023.
It's the biggest day of the recruiting calendar, National Signing Day, and we've got it covered on TexasFootball.com. Powers, appreciate your time, my friend. Happy holidays.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.